Y'all, it's already hot. Happy Sunday morning, y'all. I'm gonna turn you around. This is a garden update. If I can hold out, we started at 6:30 this morning. A lot of things got a haircut. A lot of things got pulled. On the heels of this hurricane coming in, Beryl, looks like we're gonna have 60 plus miles per hour winds sustained, as well as tornadoes. Also, I got hand surgery coming up. So I think I told y'all the other day that we were gonna be pulling, because come July, the garden is usually spent, at least here in the South, and I amend the dirt to get ready for fall and winter crops. Brassicas going into next spring. But there's a lot that I want to go into within the garden, so let's get this started. We'll start at the entrance and move from there. This is the front of the garden. Sunflowers are loving the heat. You see the zinnia's got a good haircut. I mean a good haircut. Now let's go ahead and go in. I'm gonna start with the red rippers. Yes, and we have been harvesting about 10 to 12 a day. And then I immediately shell them and then put them into a freezer bag. But let's walk down this way. I'm gonna grab my coffee, make sure nothing's in it. Nope, nothing's in it. Wrong, something's in it. Yeah. Okay, no coffee for Lippy. The top pick purple hulls gone. And you are gonna see a lot of powder looking stuff. I'll explain that in a little bit. I did keep these tomatoes. These are very nice slicers. I haven't trimmed them up yet because I was concentrating on the other vegetables. But all through here, and guys, this is in the shade, as well as these in the shade. So I did leave those. On the squash, they are starting to get loaded, and I'm actually seeing females in here. Remember the other two squash that I planted, I never got a run of females. 3 different runs, not a female, so I pulled them. But I pulled the cages off of these, and I'm actually gonna stake them because of this back wall. You're gonna see something else missing. Yes, the cucumbers. They are missing. But you'll also see the white powder. We're gonna come down here. Peppers are pulled except for these 2 bales. I'm getting quite a bit of bales off of these. I think I've got 11 or 12 that I've harvested, and they're steadily putting on blooms. I do see more bales, so I left them. This is where I had the pink top picks in these 3 beds. Pulled them. I pulled this tomato, but you can see I did leave 4 or 5 because they have tomatoes on them. And they do still have some flowers. Look at them big ones. And that's a Creole tomato. My San Marzano and these 42-day cherries, I did leave those. Hope you can see with the sun, but there is the jungle of cantaloupe and watermelon. Remember, I said don't do what I did this year. This is a hot mess. We're back at the front. I've got to water the lantanas. They're looking a little droopy, so I've got to get some water, but they're full of blooms. And the butterflies and bees love them. But I do have to get some water on them. Wow. It's definitely different, isn't it, guys? I left this tomato and gave it a good haircut to go ahead and force the fruit to go ahead and ripen. Here's another one that I left. I trimmed it very well, and I tied up the long vine because everywhere you look, it has fruit on it. I also trimmed up the creamsicle, and there's 3, 6, 7, and 9 tomatoes left on it. So, I lied. 12 tomatoes left on it. So as soon as those turn, which is a yellow color, I will pull this one. I did leave this basil because we're going to be needing it, and next Wednesday's live canning, we'll be using the basil, tomatoes, and the onions from the garden. And looking back this way, it's bare. Look over here, here's the other one. I did leave the basil, cleaned all this out, and again, you're going to see dust throughout the buckets in the beds that have no fruit or vegetables. I did leave this San Marzano, but I want y'all to look at it. I removed it from here that was growing all the way up, and I just let it hang to be able to get some sun. There's 4 tomatoes on this. So I'm gonna get them to turn and I will pull this one. We did leave the 42-day because this thing Cadillacs, guys. It looks like a hot mess, but as soon as we can get those to ripen, that one will be pulled. Now here is 2 San Marzanos. I mean, they are just loaded, guys. So I am not fooling with them. I did trim up some. See in there? Look down in here. And as you can see, it's growing out and bent over because of the weight of all these tomatoes. Here's the back side of the other one. See that? So from this angle, if you can see for the sun, we left 3 San Marzanos, 4 San Marzanos, and 1 cherry. And so this tunnel has been emptied out. Here's the back side of the sunflowers. Loving the heat. We did leave the tame jalapenos. Some call it cool jalapenos. Some call it not a pena. Loving the heat, full of blooms. I left them. The 2 jalapenos that was in this bed was spent. I wasn't getting 1 or 2 at that. Every 4 or 5 days, I pulled them. Here is the creamsicle tomatoes. I trimmed it up and I left all the tomatoes, if you can see. And I want to tell you, there is 8 there. This makes 13. And this bundle makes 19. $24, $28, $32. So guys, there's 32 tomatoes that I counted. And so I'm definitely hoping to go ahead and harvest those, hopefully in the next 5-6 days. And here's the money maker. I left it because, again, it is loaded. As far as you can see, there is tomatoes. And they're a very tasty tomato. So I left it. I forgot to pull this basil, but I'll get to it in a little bit. And of course, I left my chef orange. Guys, I am getting some of the most prettiest tomatoes. I'll insert a picture and show you the size these get, and they're my favorite tomato. I left this paste tomato going. It's got a few on there. I'm just gonna see what it does. And then let's move to the okra. I think my phone's getting hot. Do you see something different with the okra? Look at that pretty bloom, guys. see something different? It's bare, or they're bare, and these are bare as well. You're thinking, what is all of this cut? Look at the blooms, guys. Loaded in blooms. There's another one. There's another one. Oh, y'all, I had to get into some shade. I'm sweating down. But before we talk, I'm going to insert what I did with those okra. Many of you have asked questions, and I had Mr. Buddy come out, because he doesn't need to get hot, and film what I do to the okra and why I do what I do. So while I catch my breath, enjoy this clip, and then we come back, I'm going to talk about this powder that you saw throughout the garden. We got a little bee right here, bud. Whoop, there it goes. Okay, y'all, I saved the okra to harvest, if y'all can see me, because I want to show you something. I had a couple of emails, and I thank y'all very much for reaching out and asking me about okra, how I grow it. But as you can see, there's cut marks. So I saved this not only to show you what I'm harvesting, but show you what I do when I harvest. Many years ago, umpteen years ago, they would call it switching. And the old timers used to come in and switch their okra. Well, this is what they mean by that. Like, I want to cut my pod right there. Well, right here in the fork where I've cut this, it's not going to produce another okra. I'm going to remove that. That's going to push it further up and allow it to make more blooms, more okra. Here, bud, swing around here. I'm going to remove this one because I don't want my okra to get too big. And I'm going to cut that one, and I had missed that one. And that's how I do my okra. And it just keeps forcing. If you'll come up in here, bud, and look. You see all these new little pods coming in? Well, if I didn't switch it, cut it, they wouldn't come up in here. They would just go ahead and become stagnant and not make any more blooms, which hence the fruit, the okra.
Be stagnant like that right there.
Yeah. No, look at Lulu.
Lulu.
She's after something.
She's probably finding her little bug.
Oh. All right, let's get this one over here. We're gonna cut it. All right, I'm gonna go through here, guys, and get my okra cut. And we'll move on to the rest of the plant. I've got like little, I don't know what kind of bugs is up on here, but
like ants.
They look like little ants. They do. But it's all right. I got lizards here that'll take care of it. I'm gonna get this one. I like a tender okra. Now see, this one almost got away from me. Look at that. All right, I'm gonna keep doing this, guys, and then we'll move to the rest of the garden. So now you see how I cut the okra and why I cut it. Many years ago, people, the old timers, would say switching it. My dad would actually cut one and switch it. But, guys, it wasn't always getting those cuts off. And the reason why I cut that leaf off once I removed that okra to the size that I want it to be, because it's not going to produce that fruit, that vegetable again in that elbow. But what it does, it can force new growth come out the bottom, and you can usually get a second round. They'll be small, but it also forces that okra plant to keep reaching and then setting more blooms, setting more fruit. And that's why I do what I do. It works for me. I don't know if there's science behind it, but guys, that's what I do. I'm trying to push the energy up to promote more blooms. I'm not trying to give energy to a leaf that I've already harvested the fruit off of. It doesn't make sense. And I've had no fails doing it like this. Some of you also asked, what am I feeding my okra? Y'all saw when I planted them, I amended the beds and the buckets with garden tone. You also saw on the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th week with half diluted, I used a fish emulsion. And that's all I've done. Well, no, I'm lying. I did amend when I did the garden tone, the calcium nitrate. But y'all saw that if you go back, what, 8, 10? No, it was longer than that. Around March, wasn't it? Y'all, I can't keep up with the days. But I made sure to show you guys and tell y'all each Saturday or Sunday, so every weekend we did a garden update of what I used and why I personally use it. Now, let's talk about, I had to make sure there wasn't no creepy crawlers laying there. Let's talk about that white powder. Y'all have seen me use, oh my gosh, my camera's getting hot, guys, sorry. Y'all have seen me use the Captain Jack's powder. It's 7 dust, but organic, if you will. And after I pull plants, I will come back with that Captain Jack's, and I will sprinkle it all on top of the beds as well as the buckets, because this time of year, especially in the south, bugs come in during our hottest part of the summer, which is July and August. We are now moving into the second week of July, and I wanted to pull these plants. They were spent, and we're about within, well, normally I'll pull them 2-3 weeks from now towards the end of July, but for whatever reason our garden came in a couple of weeks early. But I do that because the bugs and insects come in. Where do they lay their eggs, their larvae? In the dirt. I don't want them making a home in my dirt that's sitting in my beds or my buckets, just so they can come to life and hatch and destroy my dirt for next year's crops, meaning they will eat off next year's crop. And I don't want that. And this is what I do. There's a hawk. Got to keep my eye open. This is what I do to prevent the bugs. Many of you have asked, what do you do to keep the bugs away? Guys, I don't do much of anything. I use the garden tone, and I sprinkle it around the base, especially my squash, zucchinis, things like that, and tomatoes. For whatever reason, it stinks so bad, I think that deters. But I also think by pulling my dead plants, because remember, a healthy plant will not get bug damage. A weak link, bugs love weak links. So if you got an unhealthy plant, you can't get it healthy, you pull it because you're going to invite bugs in. Don't leave your dead plants in your pots, beds, gardens, because you're exhausted and you just, I'll get it later, I'll get it before next season. All you're doing is inviting infestation. I want to be nice about it, but I'm also got to be blunt about it. Yes, it took about 2.5 hours this morning, but guess what? It's behind me. I put the Captain Jack's, so let the bugs come in. There's nothing for them to eat on, and they will move on. But they won't get into that dirt because it's got Captain Jack's, which, like I said, is an organic 7 dust. And I'm not opposed to 7 dust, guys. If there is no plants in here and none are going right into it, y'all know Lippy long enough, I will put 7 dust if I can't get my hands on Captain Jack, because I'm not going to plant, especially where I'm standing, these cucumber beds until next year. I will not plant in these beds until next year. It's not going to hurt because I've got to amend this with my chicken poo that we've been stacking since this past February. So a year of sitting, I will amend with that. And y'all have seen me amend with the garden tone, the calcium nitrate. I keep it very simple, guys. But I'm telling you, if you've got a weak link plant and there's no hope, cut it down, see if it comes back, or pull it, because you're just going to invite bugs. That's just my personal experience, and I've been gardening for a lot of years. So, you know, this is just what I do, and it really goes down to maintenance. And that's what I did today, or early this morning, started at 6:30. I came in and I maintenanced my garden. I took out all the spent plants, kept what was still producing, what was healthy, and I'm done. You know, I am done. Now, let me turn around. I've got to show you the sweet potatoes. We forgot to look at the sweet potatoes. And there's the sweet potatoes. Along with it, guys, that tree, I'm telling you, these little acorns get in here, and I'm constantly pulling this up. Yes, I should have not done that while I had y'all on camera, but look, see that? And now I got a mess to clean up. But there's the sweet potatoes. I think they're doing great. I really do. Now, some of you may ask, oh, will they bloom? Maybe. Maybe not. They don't have to bloom in order to produce sweet potatoes. So that's just an old myth. Oh, here's a good example, guys. You see how it's starting a new leg? But I have cut off of each leaf all the way up. So now I'm gonna take my coffee in the house, exchange it for some ice water. I did end up getting, I'll take a picture. I will take a picture right now. Well, I'll insert a picture right now of the okra that I harvested this morning. This amount I'm about to show you is what I get every day with the small amount of okra plants that I'm growing. Every day, guys, I'm starting on my 4th gallon of okra. I am just amazed. So you don't have to have acres and acres to grow a garden. As long as you strategically place it in the amount of space that you have, you can really produce a lot of fruits and vegetables. And I can see where next year I'm going to change up the center part of the garden to even give me more space. I think I'm going to go north to south instead of east to west, because I think I'll get more buckets changing up the direction of them. I think so. We shall see come next year, because the only thing I'm doing now is in those 2 high tunnels. When it gets close to the winter greens, brassicas, I'm going to use both of those as my greenhouse. We have the bisqueen plastic, and I'm going to use those as my greenhouse instead of our greenhouses, because one of them is going to house all of our fruit trees that we have in pots, and the other one is where I'll do my seed starting. I doubt I'm going to grow anything in it, and probably use it as storage for my blower and some of my heavy garden stuff that I don't have buildings for. And I think that's what I'm going to do. But I'm definitely going to use the 2 high tunnels, as I call them, that's in the greenhouse, that's in the garden, as our winter greenhouse. And I think it's going to do just fine. But I do have to go cool off and start cleaning cucumbers, because we got a mess of cucumbers this morning. Tomatoes, a lot of green tomatoes, because I will be also putting them up. And yeah, that is the garden update. We are what, July 7th? Yes, July 7th, 2024. And our garden is just about closed until late fall. And now I can concentrate on getting food put up and getting ready for my hand surgery. And that was the goal. So I think I accomplished that this morning, moving forward to the end of July. So as always, stay safe, stay well, and God bless. And I'll see you tomorrow, because I got something special to show you.